Hey y'all, welcome back to Breealizations. If this is your first time here, welcome to Breealizations. I am Bree, I brealize things and I put them here. This season I am gonna just be talking to myself because these are things that I need to seal in and I need to remember more often. What I am working on right now is locking in this frequency. I am working to hold this frequency all the time. I am working to rely solely on myself. If I don't know how to do something, I'm going to learn it. However, I'm going to keep producing in the meantime, and I will get better as I go. I am trying my hardest to not be so caught up in here, overthinking, overanalyzing, all of it. I am going to just raw, real, put these out, let them do what they need to do, because if I am learning something and I am feeling some type of way and I need to talk to myself about it, there's a really good chance that somebody out there also needs to hear what I am telling myself. And I am a huge believer in sharing our stories, because when we share our stories just authentically, raw, real, no worries in our brain, we just share, we find the people that need us. And my whole path to this beautiful journey has started because I wanted to become the person that I needed in all of these different scenarios that happened to me in life. And I am more of that person than I've ever been in my entire life. And I am very proud of just how far I've come. And I don't honestly know why I have allowed myself to be so hung up in all of this other stuff. So life has been super chaotic over the last 2 years. When I started this, I was in my dream home. I was in what I thought was a phenomenal relationship. I just thought my life was going to just work out and go as it should. And instead, it all blew up big time in a big, big way. I don't know what my bangs are doing here. It all blew up big time. And I let that derail me for a while, because it hurt and it was heavy. But I was really proud of myself because I handled it better than I've ever handled a big blow up in my life. So I tried really hard to stay focused on that for the most part, but I tucked away a lot. I started doing a challenge where I was doing yoga and meditation and having a shake every single day. I was going for a walk every single day, and that completely changed everything that was happening for me. And you know what's funny about that is, once I saw how powerful it was and everything great that it did for me, I sabotaged it. I didn't want to do any of it anymore. I didn't want to go walk. I made excuses for everything. I kept doing the shakes, but I wasn't thinking about how nourishing they were, how good they felt. I was just going through the motions, and I started zoning out a lot again, watching TV, just putting stuff off, and just feeling really lonely. And what happened when I allowed myself to derail and to sabotage was, I noticed my depression was sort of creeping back in. I noticed that my anger was creeping back in, my loneliness, my sadness, all of it started making its way back through me. So I tried to just pick up those same habits that were working for me again, and they weren't working for me. Not the same way that they were. So I wanted to pull it apart and see how we could make this something amazing. What did I learn through this self-sabotaging process. I learned that when I had a really good thing going, something came in and made me want to stop it. What I think that thing is that I needed to take care of myself differently. Those things were all really great, but I was still masking a lot of what I was going through. I was still pushing down a lot of my feelings and putting everyone else, even the people that had put me here and had hurt me, above myself. I was still putting their needs above mine, and I didn't want them to feel so alone. I didn't want I just distracted myself and others. And then I started feeling selfish for everything that I was doing. And I had to bring myself back, because when I think about my story and I think about this journey, I've always been on this journey. This, at the core, at the foundation of who I am, I have always wanted to help others. I have always wanted to be a light in the dark world. I have always understood all sides. But I've always wanted to find a way to use this to be who I am and how I make my living and just everything. I've wanted it to be my life. But it really, really started for me 7 years ago. I lost my partner very unexpectedly. He had an undiagnosed heart condition that nobody knew about, and he went to sleep and he woke up and he wasn't feeling very good, and he got the recommendation to try to sleep it back off, and he never woke up. And when that happened, I say 7 years, but it was 8 years ago that happened, because the first year I don't even really remember. The first year I was so lost in my grief, and I just drank and cried and numbed myself for a year. I can barely remember anything from that time in my life. It's just all a blur. And then the next 2 years, I spent wildly alone. I was very scared of a lot of things, and I was very sad. I was very, 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 very grief-stricken, and I didn't know how to move. So what I did was I found yoga, and I dove into yoga, and I made my life about yoga. And I needed that so much. It was the only time of the day that I didn't feel completely wiped out by my grief. And I really tried hard to focus on gratitude and my son and my family and the things that I loved and my friends. And I just really tried to focus on the good things of life. And while I was still incredibly sad, and I didn't understand why that had to happen, I understood now that it did. That was the bottom line. It did. And I had to find a way to keep moving. And I did. And yoga really saved my life. And I'm at that point now where I just need to find another thing that sparks my soul the way that did. And I still do a lot of yoga. I still do a lot of everything that I've learned in the last 7 years. But when I really started this journey, that was my turning point, where I started seeing things differently, and I started understanding how to put more of what I want for my life together. And everything that I have done has been about confidence, or lack thereof, because when I started teacher training for yoga, I didn't do that with the intention to teach. I did that for myself because I am very hard of hearing, and I never knew in class why we were moving the way we were or what pose we would be going into next. So it made it really hard for me to get into the flow of my own practice and to get into the class and relax enough that my muscles and my breath could all align, and it made it harder than it had to be. So I thought if I took teacher training and I had the understanding behind the sequencing, behind the movements, behind the flow, it wouldn't matter if I missed a step because I would know how to get back into it, where we were going. And it didn't matter if I wanted to spend a little bit longer in one pose, I would be able to understand what they were doing and why, so I could compensate in my own way. That's what I really wanted. Well, part of teacher training is teaching because most people that take teacher training are there to teach. So I had to go through the whole program as if I was going to teach yoga, but I didn't realize until I was in it, I didn't have any confidence to teach yoga. I was at least 100 pounds heavier than I am now, I swear, when I started yoga. And I felt like I didn't have the body, I didn't have the time behind it, I didn't have the flexibility or the anything. I just wasn't a yogi. I was just new, and this was just for me, and I felt like a crazy imposter trying to go into class and tell these other people what they should be doing. But this crazy beautiful thing happened when I was teaching a beginner's yoga class. And I had somebody come in and they didn't know how to do the seated forward fold, and I had struggled with that as well. And I showed him how to just sit differently, how to sit on your butt at a different angle so that your body is already leaning forward and you don't have all this stress on your muscles, on anything. It's just your body's just naturally designed to be leaning forward now, and you can get that deeper stretch. And I showed him how to do it, and he was so grateful to me. He could not stop talking about how much I just changed his life. And then I had moment after moment after moment like that with people who were far more advanced than I was, but they had no knowledge of this connecting piece. And that was when I realized I'm brealizing things. This is not about time, and this is not about who's better than the other. This is about, what do you know? What do I know? Let's put them together. Let's both learn. Because they taught me so many things in those moments as well. And they made me confident. They made me understand that my knowledge and the way that I learn is so different and so unique that something that somebody else might have taken 5 years to learn took me 30 minutes to learn because of the way I ask questions and the way my brain works. My confidence soared. My understanding became so much deeper. This was about connection. This was about us coming together and learning together. I wasn't trying to teach them anything that they already knew. I was trying to teach them how to deepen their practice within. And I was very successful in that. A lot of people want to know why I quit teaching, and I quit teaching because I was still very new in this level of confidence that I had. And the place that I took teacher training had a group chat that you're supposed to be taken out of once the training is over, unless you stay on at that studio. I did not stay on at that studio, and they did not remove me from the group. And one part about teacher training that I absolutely hated was you had to go to other studios, but the intention was very clear. If you liked that studio, you could only like one or two things about it. You had to hate more than you liked, because the whole purpose of it was to see what you wanted to do differently. I don't really enjoy that way of learning, because I like to find the positives in things. And I like to, while I see it, I don't really like to harp on that unless I am doing something to actively change it. I was getting another lesson at the same time about gossiping and talking bad about others and going with the flow of the group. Big time. I was betraying everything about who I was because I loved my new community so much. I felt like I couldn't lose it. It was like my bubble of safety after all of the bad things I had been through, and I cast aside all of my I know what's right and wrong, and I ran my mouth. And I felt so gross inside. I hated it. I participated in this negativity, and I hated it. And it was really messing with my entire vibe, and it was really messing with how I felt about yoga and the community. And instead of seeing that all of this community over here was wonderful, I was focusing on 3 people over here that were not, and I was letting them be more powerful than I should have ever allowed them to be. So anyway, I had a one-on-one class at my studio one day. It was so hot. Every yoga studio in the area had canceled their classes because it was so hot. Well, I didn't. And I was like, if nobody shows up, I'll just do a free flow. Like, I'm good with it. I had one person show up. She showed up really late. So I didn't even know, I didn't expect anyone to be there. I was like doing my own practice, having like my own thing, just jamming. And she got there and she's like, sorry, I'm late. I couldn't find it. And I was like, oh, hey, that's okay. And I was really nice to her. I just felt like she really needed to be there. I stayed late with her. She showed me all of these things about this upcoming wedding and her family, all these photos. I waited while she even went and got her phone from her car. I worked on inversions with her. Like, it was a really magical moment. And I was really, really glad we got this one-on-one time. And I left feeling so wonderful about that interaction. And then I get a notification from that group, and I didn't even realize I was still in that group. And it was my old instructor and the girl that I had just trained bashing me, bashing the studio, bashing everything. And I just bawled. I lost all my confidence. I didn't expect this to catch me because it's been a long time. It really hurt my feelings. It really hurt my feelings. And I felt like I couldn't trust anybody anymore. And I gave her so much of my time. And for that to be the way that that was what she did with it. And I reminded myself, I've been her. I have been her. I know where she is. I know that that's not all true because we had such a great interaction together. I know that's not all a lie. I know how powerful this one person's words were. I mean, shoot, that one person that was saying, yes, I never had any faith in them. I never, ever thought that was a good class. Like, just the way that she was to us. I knew that that shouldn't matter, but yet I let it crumble my entire self-worth. And the part that kills me the most is that my boss at the studio I was working at now was the world's greatest. And she would never do that. Never would she do that to us. But that didn't have enough stake in it for me. Like, I couldn't see the positive while I was in it. All I focused on was that negative. And then right after this, I wanted to quit so bad. I wanted to leave, and I thought about quitting all the time, but I didn't know how to tell her I was going to quit because I didn't want to leave her, and I loved the studio, and I loved everybody there so much, but I couldn't shake this. And I got hurt at the grocery store right after this. There was like a wet spot on the floor. I just slipped. It was the worst way to fall. And Sheath and Rice, get together. It was the worst way to fall, and I biffed it. I fell, okay? I fell real hard, and I pulled the entire muscle down my leg. It was the most excruciating pain. Oh my gosh. And I had no insurance at the time. I just had to ride it out and like figure it out on my own and rehab it myself. And so I was just out. Now I was sidelined. Now the thing I wanted so badly, I got, and I didn't want it. And I was devastated. And I had to quit because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't use my body. Like, life was like, if you think this is what you want, I'll give it to you, but you're going to hate it. And I hated it. And all I could do was sit in my thoughts. And my thoughts were so self-sabotaging and so negative. And I gained all this weight back, and I just felt so lost. But I needed all of that, because all of that reminded me of the bigger picture. And all of that, while it ended something, it sent me in a whole lot of new directions. And that is when I learned I can always come back to yoga in any capacity, on my own, in a studio, with one-on-ones, in groups, anything I want to do. I can do it at any time. Yoga is mine. Yoga is mine. It sits within. And I rehabbed. And I took the weight back off and more. And I worked on my own practice. And I worked on rerouting my thoughts and making them more positive. And I worked on why I allow people to derail me so hard, and why I know they're just struggling too. I know this. I know every side of this. I can see it. Why am I letting it be everything to me? After all of that happened, I decided it was really time to start taking back my own life. And I did. And it's been a roller coaster, y'all, because some moments I'm really angry at the things that have happened to me, and I'm just like, I don't deserve any of this. Why did I have so much of this? Or why have I had to go through so many crazy things? Why have I had to be around so many awful people, like people that are just in the worst part of their lives? Why do they find me? Why do they seek me out? Why do I seek them out? Why do people hurt me when all I do is love them? I don't know. But it has been my path. It has been my life. It has been this thing that I have been learning forever. And the more that I learn, it's not about them. It's about me. It's about what I do with anything that is given to me. Anything that is thrown at me, anything that occurs around me or to me, it is all about what I do with it. And I decided I wanted to stop being angry. I wanted to stop being sad. I wanted to stop being hurt. I wanted to do the opposite. But I kept focusing on, I don't want to be sad anymore. And I just kept feeling more sad because I was focusing on not being sad. Life hears, be sad. Life doesn't hear the negatives. So it just, every time I said, I don't want to be sad, life heard, I want to be sad. Every time I said, I don't want to be angry, life heard, I want to be angry. And my brain just heard anger, anger, anger. And my body heard anger, anger, anger. And then I'm like, why am I angry? I wonder. So I had to start thinking about what's on the opposite side. Happiness, peace, gratitude, joy, enlightenment, all of these things. So now I do my practice and I don't think about how much it hurt when that happened. I think about how far they've come because I still talk to the main person and she's grown exponentially. She's totally different. I would have to re-meet her if we saw each other in public. She's not the same as she was then. And she had a lot of great things about her then. She was just caught up in her own stuff too, and her own self-sabotage and her own hurts, her own journey. And I don't want to hate on her for one moment where it was tough out of all these years. I just want to hold that hope that she's on the same kind of journey that I am, of her own scale. And she is moving and grooving in the best ways. And I hope that when I do meet her again, it's beautiful. And it doesn't feel like that at all. And when I get emotional about stories that I tell, I'm letting it out. I'm letting it out of my body. I'm letting it go. I don't feel ashamed or like I should be over it. I feel good. I just released that. I didn't know that that was in there. Hell yeah, get it out. This life is ours. Every high, every low, it's what we do with it. It's how we reroute it. It's how we connect, how we process, and how we share it, how we use it for something good. So that's what I'm going to do here. This is just an opening. I've got so many stories to share with y'all and so many lessons for myself to seal in, so many things to let off of my body. We're going to have a good time doing it. If this hit, let me know. I love when y'all share your stories with me. I love when you tell me how things affect you and how it made you see things differently and how you're going to put action into doing differently. I love that stuff. That is why I created that Facebook group, Brain Gains, because it's supposed to just be all about that, where people can come and they can reroute and they have a safe space to drop things that they're working on. And I love when people get in my DMs and share stories and tell me how this impacts you. It just makes me want to do more and more and more. So, raw, real, unedited, let's go, y'all. Let's Breealize it all together.